Welcome to week 3 of our course, and I hope you've enjoyed the first couple of weeks. And starting in week 3, we're going to start to look at some things that we can do to try to deal with the issue that the U.S. healthcare system is facing. So if you didn't know before the course started, I think you may be becoming aware that the U.S. healthcare system faces 3 major problems, and we can view problems as opportunities. And I think particularly for those of you who have not yet started your professional careers or at the beginning point of your professional careers, that understanding what problems exist also create opportunities. But there are certainly problems that we all must face, and hopefully we develop opportunities sooner than later. So the U.S. healthcare system, when is measured against any other healthcare system in industrialized countries across the world, has 3 major problems. Our access is lower than other countries, so there's a significant portion of our population that either do not have access or struggle to get access due to costs. Our costs are on average twice as high as other countries, and we're an outlier in terms of cost. And perhaps most importantly is our quality is really questioned. There are several peer-reviewed studies that indicate that in somewhere between 98,000 to 400,000 Americans die every year due to preventable medical errors in the U.S. healthcare system. So that's kind of the background of what kind of sets the tone for the course. So the first thing we're going to explore in terms of what can we do about it is this topic called lean. So in week 3, we'll talk about what is lean and start to think about, can it transform healthcare? And it certainly has transformed other industries. And then in week 4, we'll look at some of the key tools of lean. So at the end of these 2 weeks, you will not become an expert on lean, but you'll get a good introduction in terms of what lean is and how lean is employed. And then if this topic interests you, as I hope it will, then there's certainly opportunity for you to continue your education and learning through a number of organizations, one being actually in Cambridge called the Lean Enterprise Institute that posts a plethora of useful and helpful information. So the other is that there's an organization in the Boston area called the Massachusetts Lean Hospital Network, and I'll send you links to both organizations as we move forward. So first thing though, let's talk about what is lean. So lean is basically the Toyota production system adopted in the United States. And so the reason that the name lean is used as opposed to the Toyota production system is that what happens is that there's a couple of people, Jim Womack and others, who go and study the Toyota production system in the early 1980s, and they bring it to the U.S. automobile industry. And the U.S. automobile industry likes the overall approach of the Toyota production system, but Ford, GM, and at the time American Motors can't adopt something called the Toyota production system, so they decide to call it lean. But when we think about lean, what we're really talking about is the Toyota production system. But we'll always refer to it as lean going forward. Okay, so one of the reasons why I had you read the Toyota production system in the Toyota way is that it really gives us the fundamentals. Between Shingo and the Toyota production system, we really have the fundamentals of what lean is trying to do and trying to accomplish. So lean is a set of operating philosophies, methods that help create maximum value for the patient or customer by focusing on reducing waste. Okay, and we're going to talk about what that means as we evolve through these next couple of weeks. So lean emphasizes the consideration of the customer needs. So everything evolves around what's important for the customer, in our case, the patient. So just a very small example. One of the wastes of lean, the 7 wastes identified, is waiting time. So think about how many times you've gone into a hospital or doctor's office and you've sat in the waiting room for untold periods of time. And in the lean world, that's considered non-value added. And so we try to figure out how can we eliminate that. So Virginia Mason, hospital healthcare organization on the West Coast, who is a pioneer and a leader of lean in healthcare, has eliminated all their waiting rooms. So focus on the needs of our patient, involve employees in the problem solving, decision making, and then focus on how we can continue to get better each and every day, right? So one of the things you'll hear about lean over and over again is that it's a journey, that we never end the process of improving. We never stop involving employees, and at the heart of all this is that we constantly think about our decision-making framework of our patients, of our customers, not in terms of what's best for the organization or for the individuals in the organization. So the other thing that we have to recognize is that lean needs to change the culture. And so it's not just a process implementation, it's a cultural change, it's a management change. and so it really transforms the entire organization. So I'm going to have you listen to John Shook of the Lean Enterprise Institute. He's one of the leaders of lean in the United States and throughout the world, and he talks about the 5 principles of transforming an organization, and that's really what lean is about. So you can certainly implement lean on a project, but to sustain it, to have it really take hold the way it's intended to, it has to be a cultural implementation, a leadership change, and everybody has to embrace it. And it really has to come, everybody, including senior management, has to get on board and embrace it. So as I mentioned, the core idea is to maximize customer or patient value. Okay, so think about, so what does that really mean? So what that really means is that if something does not add value to the customer, then we want to eliminate it. So as I mentioned, waiting time is certainly does not add value to a customer. We want to eliminate it. How do we make the customer's life better, simpler, and give them higher quality? So are we doing too many tests? Are we having them wait too long? Is our quality higher enough? So everything is focused around thinking, how do we make the life of our patients better? And so then what happens is that we understand what the customer needs and wants, and then we continuously focus on trying to achieve that. And we recognize that there's always opportunities for improvement. So what happens is that we lay out every process in the organization, and then we have a way to share that information with everybody. And when we get to next week, we'll talk about something called a couple of basic tools, the A3 tool, the value stream mapping tool, and we'll see how those tools help us to put in place this concept of lean, which right now is, I understand, is just a concept, but I'm going to give you some very basic tools that are used in lean. And one of the things that I really love about lean is that the tools are very straightforward, and so everybody can use the tools, and they're highly effective in transforming organizations. But one of the things that when we talk about cultural change is that we have to get away from the silo thinking. We have to view things as a flow and process flows and not about the barriers that we create between organization thinking. So the barrier between the pharmacy and the nurse and the doctor, all of that has to be broken down. We have to think about how things work in terms of flow for the customer. And so we'll examine that, and value stream mapping will help us to look at that. And then once we understand our our processes, we also want to understand what the 7 wastes are, and we want to constantly be looking for wastes, identifying them, and then working a plan to eliminate them. So at the end of the day, what we're trying to increase our throughput through efficiency. So when you look at the Lean Enterprise Institute model, they'll talk about the 5 areas that every organization has to use to transform their organization. So first of all, we have to change our thinking. Right? We have to reshape what we think, and go back to Shingo, go back to Toyota production, respect of everybody, cooperation, teamwork, mutual prosperity, long-term view, etc. And then we have to look at our processes. We need a process. We need a way to understand what our processes are, and then to figure out how to improve them. And that means to eliminate the waste. And we need to engage all of our employees and all of our stakeholders. And that includes management. Management needs to be totally engaged, understand what's going on. There's something in Lean called go to Gemba, which means go to where the work is being done so you can understand it firsthand. Don't be making decisions based on sitting in an office someplace. So Lead is focused on teaching, coaching, mentoring, not solving not solving problems of their people, but helping them to figure out how to solve their own problems. And then we want to make a big investment in capability development, on-the-job training, teachings, classrooms, etc. So, and then a big part of this is to let people make mistakes in a controlled environment, and then be able to identify and share their ideas and mistakes, and then and by doing that, then the process of continuous improvement is possible. At the end of the day, we want to focus on what are the problems we're trying to solve. We want to increase productivity and reduce cost. So lean is it's really a cultural change. But there's also a set of very straightforward tools to go along with it, and we're gonna examine those in week 4. So you should know that recently in healthcare that lean has been taking hold in many organizations. So there are some leading organizations like Virginia Mason, the Ford Hospital Network in Michigan, and also here in New England, there's a big network of healthcare organizations that are involved in implementing lean. So it's certainly an idea that healthcare is embracing. And it's embracing because if we go back to the initial slide, everybody who's in healthcare recognizes that the U.S. healthcare system is struggling with cost, struggling with quality, and struggling with access. And so we need to figure ways to change the paradigm. And it's not that lean is the silver bullet, because there probably is not a single silver bullet, but implementing lean will create an environment, a management structure and system that is likely to be sustainable if implemented properly. So here's the 14 principles of the Toyota Way, and here's how they might be applied to a lean healthcare system. So we'll look at some of these as we go through the readings in week 4, things like the 5S, value stream mapping, and others. And again, not expecting anybody to be an expert on lean at the end of a 2-week session, but we want to give you a good exposure to what lean is and then how it's used in healthcare.